everyone for joining this morning. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Karen McFadden and I'm the founder of a new finance platform for the B2B world called Money Insights. Now, I set up this community literally just in December recently, so it's very new. But I set up the network because I'd worked in the finance space for about 6 years. And I honestly couldn't believe the amount of money that business owners miss out on. And it came down to always just two main problems. The first one is you just don't know all the opportunities that are available to you. There's thousands out there that you're just, they don't get landed on your desk. And the second problem is you just don't know the finance experts to talk to. And of course, I know that there are a mix of business owners and accountants on this call, which is great because I'm sure your accountant will agree that from time to time, expert financial advice is needed. They do not have all the money answers. And Craig, being an accountant himself, which he'll introduce in a wee moment, he'll contest to that. But yeah, so I set up the platform Money Insights, and if it's easier to think of as like a financial matchmaker for your business, then by all means do so. Because the way the network works is we connect our members with our partners. And the whole point of these connections is to help our members either make money, save money, get it back in tax, win it in a grant, win it in a tax rebate. Really, truthfully, we don't really care how it looks. As long as it puts money in your pocket and your business, then we want to share it. And we couldn't have the platform without our incredible partners, because that is where we gather all of our expert finance knowledge, and that's where we share it from. So this is probably a perfect segue into welcoming Craig from Know Your Numbers onto the webinar this morning. So Craig, you're a member and a partner of Money Insights. Thanks so much for giving up your time this morning. Maybe just a quick introduction on yourself would be great to kick us off.
Good morning, Karen. Let's do a quick and easy introduction, which is I run something called Know Your Numbers, where I teach business owners all things finance and educate them. And I still do a number of part-time finance director roles, a lot more than I used to, because I'm not getting any younger, as none of us are. And as Cam said, yes, I am a chartered accountant, Scottish chartered accountant, although I try not to tell people that. For me, accountants tend to look back. I'm very much looking forward, always have been. I qualified 30 years ago last year, which is quite scary. I was only 7 when I qualified.
Yeah, absolutely. First of your kind in Scotland, so you were.
First child member of ICAS.
Superb. Well, listen, Craig, when I first met you, I really loved what you were all about because, of course, I work with accountants regularly. And the reason I enjoyed talking to you is because you surprised me, which I like happening. And the surprise was when you explained what you do. You help companies know their numbers better. The more you can know them, the more you can forecast pipeline, the more you can maximize your profits. And so I thought, okay, well, obviously the kind of people that come to you then are people that are entrepreneurs, maybe startups, folk that don't really have a lot of business knowledge very early in the game. Because I assumed that people that have owned companies for decades and been in the game for decades, I assumed that they'd be all over this stuff. And to my surprise, you said,
sadly, no.
yeah.
And it doesn't matter what size the company is or how long they've been going. I could tell you some horror stories of companies that are turning over in excess of 20, 25 million who haven't got a clue what they're doing. And I've got someone who's called finance director who hasn't got a clue what they're doing either. There's some really scary stories. I think people make the assumption that business owners know this stuff, and in general, most don't. And that's not being, I'm not being critical of business owners in that sense, because most business owners have never been taught about this. They're taught how to, fix roofs, build houses, provide a particular service, sell a product. That's what they're good at, and experts in that, as I'm sure some of the people on this will be, or some of the people watching it. But has anyone ever sat them down and explained what a profit and loss account is, or what a balance sheet is, or how to do a forecast, or how to get funding? And sadly, the answer to that in most cases is no. And that's where I become very critical of accountants. As I said, I'm a chartered accountant myself, but I'm very critical of the accountancy and finance profession in general, because I think business owners are very badly served. They're not educated, they're not given the information they should get, but also they don't know the questions to ask. And again, that's where Know Your Numbers came from, because as a business owner, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, I suppose one of the strap lanes that Money Insights has is make money easy. Because if money's easier to understand, well, it's easier to get, and then it's easier to enjoy, you know, and that's something that you hold, dear to the
Well, we
company
talk,
also. It's one of your values.
absolutely, we talk about that in the podcast. When we do the Know Your Numbers podcast, the opening line is know your numbers, know your business, make better decisions and make more money. Because if you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. Right? And if you don't know the right numbers, you can't make the right decisions. It's really simple.
So
There's nothing complicated in here. The other thing to add about the accountancy profession, may as well have another pop when I've got the chance. So apologies to any accountants or finance people, but if you're on this, you're probably one of the better ones, so don't take it personally. But there's no education of people. You don't tell the typical accountants don't tell business owners what they need to know, and don't say, look, here's the information you need to run your business. See if I give you this every month, you can then do this rather than come and see me every year. And what happens then is you get a much happier client because they're on top of the information, they're making better decisions, they're making more money, and you're making more fees as the accountant because they're making more money. They're not concerned about what they're paying you. Some people, typically most people will go to an accountant because they're the cheapest and they file accounts, 8.5 months after year end, okay? You file it, go and see your accountant, you sign the accounts, send the revenue a check for this. Here's my invoice. See you next year. Right?
yeah.
What's the value in that? It's like I bet you've never sat, Karen, on a Friday night with your recently married husband to say, darling, why don't we go and have a look at car tires tomorrow? Because nobody buys car tires unless they need to, or they've got a puncture, or you're told it's illegal. And that's the approach many business owners take to accounts. They go and get what's the cheapest only when they have to. And my argument to the accountancy profession is if you could educate the business owner by saying, see, if you did this every day, you'd have real-time info. You'd then have this every week. We'd have some KPIs you can use to run your business. You can have the monthly information. We'll compare actual against budget. You'll understand where you're going well, where you're going badly, and you'll make the changes. Now, the fees, whether you're paying 50 quid a month or £500 a month, if you're giving that value to their client, they stop thinking about cost, they think about value and what that does to the profit. Because if you can take a business from 1 million to 2 million turnover, and they've got an average gross margin of say 30%, that's another 300,000 grand, £300,000 in the gross profit pot. Now, the accountancy fees, the bank fees and other admin costs probably to grow the business will be nowhere near that. And that's what I'm saying. Educate them, tell them what they need, help them rather than just sitting off at the side.
Yeah. And this is again from working with accountants over the years and business owners, it's proactive accountants. That's the way forward now. Giving advisory services, compliance is not enough anymore. And of course, adding these advisory services on is something that they don't have to be experts in. They just have to have it as an opportunity for their clients to say, listen, we're connected with XYZ. And that's actually part of what Money Insights is trying to do for accountants. It's matching them with these experts so they can pass them on to their clients. But so let touch on some of the not opportunities, but some of the examples that you've got, Craig, because I think it's really important to paint a picture to the viewers today on what's the first conversations that you would have with your clients. They come to you and they go, I have no idea about blah blah blah, and I've been a managing director for 20 years. Like, give me a couple of case studies or examples.
It's not normally about the information, it's about the problem, and the problem is generally cash.
Right.
My business is growing, I'm profitable, but I've got no cash. Or I've got no cash, because the business isn't profitable, right? And that's a separate one. So if your business is profitable, you're unlikely to ever have cash, right? But we'll set that one aside today. But if you think about most businesses give credit to their customers, their clients, okay, and they will pay in 30 days, 60 days, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
You've still got to pay your employees, perhaps weekly, monthly. You've got to pay your suppliers, you've got to pay your rents, your rates, your insurance. And often you're having to pay this before you're paid, depending on how you structure things. And that's where managing cash becomes so important. And what happens is, as the business grows, right, that working capital requirement just keeps going up. So if your working capital is X when you're turning over 1 million, assuming you've got the same customer base and supplier base, and you're turning over 2 million, it'll be 2 times X. And that's what people don't understand. And I see many business owners going from made redundant, seeing an opportunity, man in a van, another couple of people, and they'll get to 6, 8, 10 people, maybe turning over 500,000, and then it all starts really creaking because they then can't pay the guys in time, they can't pay the suppliers, they've not paid themselves for the last 2 months because there's no cash. And the reason there is they've not been told that in order to go and get funding, which most of them aren't aware of, they can go and get, you need to have up-to-date financial information. So you need to know where you are, where you've been, and more importantly, where you're going. Right. There's an episode of the podcast, Know Your Numbers podcast, out today with Chris Laurie of Bank of Scotland. He's an area director and he manages a big team. And he's talking about the businesses they want to help and the information they need. And it's quite simple. You can't just go to the bank and say, I want some money. How much do you want? I don't know. Between a fiver and 5 million. Because if you don't have, and people laugh at that. But if you don't have a forecast, how do you know? Now, in most cases, it will be between a fiver and 5 million. But unless you've got that forecast to show what you need, then you've got no credibility at all with the bank. And also, why are you going to take funding when you don't actually know what you need and what you're going to do for it? So what you're going to do with it. So if you've got up-to-date management information, understanding where you are, you've got your prior year accounts done, and you then get a forecast based on a series of assumptions, you can then go to the bank and say, okay, we're at 1 million, we're going to 2, we need £500,000, here's what we're going to do with it, we'll bring in these people, we need to pay these suppliers, do this, do that, do that. You'll have the bank eating out your hand all day long. Getting funding is very, very easy, because if you've got that information that you use to run your business, right, what does a bank need? They need exactly the same information that you need to run your business. They need to know where you are, where you've been, and where you're going. You package that up, you give it to them, and generally you go to the top of the class in terms of how the bank looks at you and in terms of how the credit team looks at you. Because if you go to a meeting with the bank, you can't tell them how much you want. And they then say, we need all this information, and it takes you 6 weeks to produce it. Right? You've gone from there way down, right? Because you've got no credibility, because you're not on top of your numbers, you're not on top of your info. If you can have a meeting with the bank and you have the meeting and you send it right away, or even better, as I do with my clients, is we send them the information before. Now, where are we now? 30th of January. Here's December management accounts. Here's the forecast updated to December. Here's the rest of the forecast for the next year. This is the money we need. Here's our aged debtors. Here's our aged creditors. Here's the detail of our stock and our WIP. Simple.
So it's and it sounds obvious, Craig, and of course that's I mean I work I've helped companies find funding, get investment, loans, etc. And this is one of the key fundamental things. It's really this is where the company name came from. It's knowing your numbers, and it's amazing the amount of startups or companies that are going for investment and they just haven't perfected their business plan, or they've not perfected that pipeline, and so the investors are going, "What? I wouldn't touch your business," same as a bank, I suppose.
So I had a meeting with a guy yesterday, Karen. I was one of the banks, and normally the credit people don't normally get out to play, right? Because normally the credit people, they sit in their ivory tower and just pontificate and maybe say no to a lot of things as a perception. I had a meeting with someone from one of the banks yesterday, and the guy who's actually head of credit for this bank, and we were having this very discussion about information, and he was talking to me about a potential, no names, but just saying, because we're talking about the information flow. And I said, I got this opportunity. They're looking for X, okay, and this was like 2 weeks ago, and they didn't even produce management accounts for last year. There's no forecast, and they're being advised by a reputable accounting firm. Right now, I would question the word reputable on the basis of that. And he's saying there's not a chance we're ever going to do it. See if they ever give us the information. It's too late, because they've destroyed their credibility, as has the accountancy firm advising them. There's no, my advice to people looking for funding: get the information, but don't have the meeting till you've got the information. Because what you don't want to do is meet the bank today and it takes you 6 weeks to get the info. You want to have it, give it to them, or have the meeting, find out what they want, give it to them. It's really simple. You've got to help yourself. And my role, I always see my role as basically making it easy for the bank to say yes.
Okay. Okay. So, going back to your original point where you were saying that it's nothing complicated here, it's not rocket science, this is simple. If you get a better grasp of your numbers, you can make more profits, and that's the end goal. If it's so simple, what is holding the majority of business owners back from perfecting this?
Uh, it, Two things. One is fear, because if you think of people who've set up trades businesses, they've become plumbers, joiners, electricians. And in many cases, why is that? Because they haven't excelled at school. Right? Because if you excel at school, you're getting all the high grades, you become a doctor an accountant or a lawyer or something, okay? If you're getting the poorer grades, well, at least it used to be when I was at school, which was a long time ago, but you get thrown off to the technical department. Okay, so in your mind, you're too stupid to understand a lot of this stuff, right? But you're a bloody good joiner or an electrician or house builder or roofer or whatever that is, okay? And you just plod along, bringing on new people, growing a really good business, going from here to here to here to here. And no one's ever taught you that you need to know this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And when someone mentions accounts and finance, you think, geez, I remember maths class, that teacher made me feel like an idiot. So that's the first one. And the second one is probably another pop at accountants, is the accountancy profession. The accountancy profession does not actually make it easy for business owners because they use all this jargon. We talk about accruals and prepayments and deferred tax, right? Most business owners haven't got a clue what it is. To be perfectly honest, a lot of accountants don't know what that is. So you've got that problem. You've got someone who's scared, and then you get all this jargon thrown at you, and they're just saying, "No, I don't want to know,"
Hmm.
because they don't want to feel stupid. We had a guy in third or fourth Know Your Numbers group, so going back a couple of years, and he sent me a message at 10 past 9, so 10 minutes after the first session. And he said, "Thanks very much for letting me into the group, because you got to fill out an application and get an interview because you need to be, the right fit." He said, "I've learned more in the last 2 hours than I have in the previous 35 years."
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
He was 57, set up a business at 21, and he wanted to make this big push. He pitched up to his accountant every year, a couple of days before deadline. "Sign this," as I said earlier, "sign this, send a revenue check for that. Here's my invoice. See you next year." Walks out, no idea what he signed. Another bloody bill to a tax man. I didn't know about that. How am I going to find that and pay it in, 2 weeks? And another bill from the accountants. What's the point?
Hmm.
That's why. And, and,
Yeah.
and, there's, and there's no one, or there's very few people out there educating business owners and trying to help them in that way. There are some accountancy firms who are doing that. I'm not critical of them all, but there's not enough.
Yeah.
The business owners are poorly served, and that's my big issue with the profession.
And I can completely agree because, again, in my 6 years of working with accountants, there's been a handful that have been a dream. They work with me on a regular monthly basis. They enjoy the insights now that I'm sharing with them. But the large majority don't want to have regular updates or regular conversations about specialist financial topics. They simply just want to wait until potentially an opportunity arises, and then they'll maybe reach out and say, okay, can you help with something. I actually, personally, again, no names, I had an accountant that came to me, and it was a commercial property that the client had renovated. Now, they renovated it about 18 months prior, and they'd spent, quite a bit of money on it. And long story short, the tax saving to this client was £258,000, right? So over £250,000. The accountant came to me 2 months before the tax, the year end, and the importance of that is that the renovation works were done within the last two tax years, so the client got to enjoy the saving all in one go. Had that client waited a month or 2 months, or that tax year had finished, then sure, the client would still get the benefit, but it'd be written down over 10, 15, 20 years. And this was, and really the accountant's approach to this was, "Oh yeah, Karen, thanks for calling. Oh yeah, actually there's an opportunity. I've just met with a client there recently, and of course this is then where I had to go. Did you mention this to them? Did you bring that up? Did we get an introduction?" So my point and again, this is one of the whys for building money insights. It's to consistently spoon feed opportunities like what you're offering, what you do, the help it can give companies, it's spoon feeding that to the members to say, this is stuff you need to know about, and here's a contact for it.
Exactly. So let's compare that situation you're talking about there, where you miss your end, to somewhere where you've got the accountant working closely with you on an ongoing basis, or at least you're internally producing management accounts every month. You're looking actually against budget, understanding the variances. If it's good, understand it, let's do more. If it's bad, let's understand it, let's fix it. And if you can get those done within, say, a week of month end, you've still got the rest of the month, or the other 3 weeks to influence that current month. But what it also allows you to do is, if you can then get your tax up to date, you know exactly what your tax is on an ongoing basis. And it doesn't necessarily need to be perfect every month, but do it every quarter so you know where you stand. Because again, I've had the question from you, although I don't advise on tax, but I've had people say to me, what can I do? I've got a tax bill of 250 grand. What can I do? When was your year end? Oh, well, it's done, right? Not very much in my view, right? But if you're then looking at that, to tell you what I do with my business, I've got my own accountant who actually looks after a number of clients. So he looks after businesses from sort of £500,000. One of my clients is about 25 million. He looks after, the whole range in between. And what he does with me is he updates my zero on an ongoing basis. It's up to date virtually every day. Every quarter, he sends me an update. Here's what your personal tax is running at. Here's what your corporation tax is running at. So I know exactly where I'm going. I've got 4 bank accounts in the business. Okay, I've got my current account. Clients pay me. I pay suppliers. I've got my VAT account. I keep track on zero about what my VAT is running at, so I put my VAT in there. I've got my corporation tax account, and because he's telling me how much, I've got my corporation tax account in number 3. And then I've got a 4th account, which is this account doesn't exist account, which is sort of just money, hidden away. And I encourage all businesses to do that, separate the money, because there's no point looking at your bank account today and thinking I've got lots of cash if you don't know where it's going. And that comes into the whole point of forecasting, the rolling weekly cash flow forecast. Because again, you'll see business owners will look at their bank account today. We get 200 grand in my bank account today. Fantastic. I'll go and buy a new car. I'll go on holiday. I'll do this. And then, forgot I have to pay the wages next week. I've got my VAT next week and I've got my corporation tax next week. And I need to pay a supplier. Actually, of that 250 that's in the account, actually, none of it's his because it's all gone out. And if you don't forecast and look forward in that, you haven't got a clue.
Yeah, and what I'm picking up as well is it's really just getting into good habits, and getting into using the right tools and systems to prioritize where money should go at what time. And this is obviously something you teach in your courses, Craig. So I'd like to invite you to talk a wee bit about what your courses look like, what they offer, duration, etc.
I'll come back to that, Karen. Just remind me, because I'm like Billy Connolly, I go around the houses and some of this stuff. So
No,
please make sure I come back to that. But in terms of being up to date, okay, there's things you should be doing every day. Right? I learned from one of my first bosses in 1994. If you do everything every day, you're only ever a day behind. Right? Sounds simple, but it's true. Do everything every day, you're only ever a day behind. You come in the morning, or someone comes in, okay, whether it's the bookkeeper or the accountant, whatever. You do your bank reconciliation. Okay, reconcile everything. The way Xero and QuickBooks can be set up now, probably it's just a case of clicking OK on lots of stuff and then finding things that need to be matched. Okay, so you do that. You process your purchase invoices. Okay, most people are now doing that through apps, HubDoc, Dext, something like that. So you make sure you do that, and you issue your sales invoices. Right, don't wait till the end of the month. If the job's done, you've provided the service or product, get your invoice in. You do that every day. You come in the next day, you do the same again. You do the same again the next day. Really, really simple. Okay, and that means you're fully up to date. The other thing I talk about doing is I've got 2 rules for any business. Okay, for any business at all, it applies. Okay, you get rule 1, focus on cash, and rule 2, don't forget rule 1. Okay, again, simple. Right? I know you're laughing, but it's simple. As I say, all this is simple. Right. And then I've got 3 other things I want every business to do every day. Right, we've covered part of that. The first thing I want you to do is ask the question. There's 3 questions you ask. First question is, how much cash do we have? Okay. So you go in and you reconcile your bank. You know the answer right away. Second question I want you to ask is, who's got our cash? Look at our aged debtors. Who owes us money? Who's overdue? Who's falling due? Chase them, send them reminders, tell people that, we're expecting your payment on Friday. So you do that on an ongoing basis. And then the third thing you should be doing is you should be asking the question, how do I get more cash? And the way to do that is to have a few key performance indicators in the business. Things that let you know how if you've had a good day, a good week, or a good month. As somebody asks business owners that, how do you know if you've had a good day, a good week, or a good month, right? And typically they'll say, well, the phones have been busy, or I've had lots of email inquiries, or all my staff are out on site, or all my vehicles are out. And I say, no, but show me something financially. Show me a metric that you measure, that you can actually measure it, you can monitor it, and then you can do better. And if you can pick 3 or 4 of those KPIs in your business, then you will drive the business forward with more profitability and you have more cash. So keep it simple. There's nothing difficult in any of that.
It's almost going back to basics, when you're talking about KPIs and tracking and doing things, consistent things on a daily basis. It really is just kind of going back to those good habits and back to basics.
That's it. And to go back to your original question, which I remembered, is that's what we do in Know Your Numbers. And basically we've got 3 different ways that you can engage in Know Your Numbers. We've got the Know Your Numbers groups, we've got Know Your Numbers live events. We've got a live event at the Hilton at Strathclyde Business Park tomorrow. It's an all day. And we've also got Know Your Numbers one-to-ones now that I'm doing with companies because there's been a demand for that. And if you want more info, go into knowyournumbers.biz, or you can buy a copy of the new Know Your Numbers book. If you don't have a tenner or £4 or whatever on Kindle, send me a message and we'll send you a voucher to buy a copy. And the groups work quite simply. It's done over a 6-month basis. We have a 2-hour session 1 week, which is a teaching session, and we have a 1-hour session 2 weeks after that we call the clinic session. So on the teaching session, and this is all on the website as well, and the teaching session, we go through a series of different topics. So the Know Your Numbers Mastery is based on session 1, profit, loss and balance sheet. Session 2 is management accounts and KPIs. Session 3 is explaining what a forecast is, because a lot of people don't know. Session 4, we show you how to build a forecast, monthly P&L, balance sheet and cash flow, and a weekly rolling cash flow. You can actually get a copy of a weekly rolling cash flow model on the knowyournumbers.biz website if you go to resources. The fifth session is operational finance, understanding the difference between fixed costs and variable costs, direct costs, indirect costs, looking at gross margin, difference between gross margin and markup, pricing, quotations. And then session 6 is about cash and funding and how to build more value in your business. So that's reasonably structured main teaching sessions. And then in the clinic sessions, which we do 2 weeks later, it's a free-for-all. You come and discuss whatever you want to. People will maybe ask me to go over what we did in the last session, or we'll look at some numbers in their business, or they'll go away and do a review of their products and say, okay, here's the margin I'm making on all of these. What do you think? And okay, maybe get rid of these and change it. So it becomes more interactive. So we talk about learning, applying, and then growing. So you grow as a business owner and you grow as your business. Your business then makes more money, because that's what this is all about. This is not about you as a business owner being able to produce a profit and loss account, a balance sheet, and a forecast. And I don't expect any business owner to do that, but I want you to be aware of it, and I want you to make sure someone's doing that. And then more importantly, having 3 or 4 key numbers in your business that you can influence and you can use to drive up your profitability. So you're always looking ahead, you've got the right funding in place, you know where you're going. And it really is, it's simple as that.
And this isn't a matter of replacing the work of an accountant or expecting a business owner to do everything themselves and be a master at it. It's just instilling simple habits, simple, easy habits into their day-to-day to educate themselves a bit better, make them feel more comfortable about their financial forecast.
It's giving people the knowledge and the confidence. If you look at, there's various testimonials on the website, and one thing that comes out is that I thought I was the only one who was facing this. I thought everybody else knew what they were doing, because the perception is if you're turning over 10 million or 20 million, you know everything, right? You don't.
Yeah.
Most business owners, actually, they're still winging it. They're running with the seat in their pants, and they couldn't explain what a gross profit is or gross margin or whatever. Again, not a criticism.
See it.
But
see it myself.
all I'm saying is, if you have this knowledge, you'll be able to make better decisions, but you'll also be able to say to your accountant, why are you not doing this? Why are you not doing that? Or your internal team, why are you not doing that? We need to do this. And that's what it's about. So you can then get the information, have questions. There was a lady in one of the early groups, and she talks about the confidence, and she's run many businesses, invested in many. And she used to get the accounts every month, and she'd just look at them and say, thanks very much, right? Because she didn't know what she was looking at.
Yeah.
Now she can go and say, what about this? What about that? Why is that? Why that? So it's given her the confidence to push back internally and with her accountant. And she's now making more money as a result. She's a lot less stressed. That's what this is about.
Yeah. And can I ask, Craig, so this makes sense, perhaps. I'm going to put myself in two people's shoes. Business owners that you're describing, where perhaps they've been in business for a while, money's coming in, but they're not entirely sure how to maximize it or even manage it or continue it. The other example would be a startup. So I know there's a few accountants on this call today. They'll get clients coming to you, started their business. What is the best piece of advice that you could give to both of those scenarios? If you were speaking to an accountant, what would be the best advice you could
Okay,
give?
so for the startup, you need to understand if that's someone you want to work with, because most of these guys don't have money, okay? And you need to take a long-term view and take a portfolio approach, because many of them will go bust because they won't be properly funded. And if that's something you want to get into, great, right? But what the business itself has to understand is how much money it needs and where it's going to get to. Because with most startups, it's a case of raising investment, it's about equity and finding external shareholders. And you've always got to find out and work out that money that's coming in, where does it take you to? Do you then need more money, or are you cash generative at that point? And you've always got to make sure that you're building value in the business as you go up, so the next round is cheaper. So, some of these things can take many, many years if they're more technology type startups. And maybe just it could be a traditional, it might be someone building houses, which is kind of a startup, right? So you've got to understand that, and they've got to understand the importance of what they need. And I'd be trying to educate them and tell them what they need to put in place, right? All the things I've been talking about. And for other businesses, again, it's very simple, that you need to understand where you are, where you've been, and where you're going. You need to have monthly management accounts. Right? I really hate when people say, oh yeah, my accountant gives me quarterly management accounts. I detest quarterly management accounts because it's just bloody lazy. Right? Just do it every month. You need to do it anyway. Right? And the other thing I detest is management accounts that are just a P&L. Right? Your P&L can't be right unless you have a balance sheet with it, and the P&L falls out in terms of the movement from one balance sheet to the next balance sheet, right? So you've got to have both. So my advice there is go and educate your clients. It won't work for all of them, right? Some businesses will run flat. They'll turn over 100,000, a million, 10 million, whatever. They'll be doing the same next year and the following year, Don't waste your time on them. Leave them. They'll be good, solid clients. But if you've got clients who are ambitious, that they're maybe turning over 500,000, they want to go to 1, to 2, to 5, to 10, go and engage with them, embrace what they're doing, understand them as people, understand where they want to take the business to. Do they want to grow it to a particular level? Do they want to sell out at a point in time? And then go and make yourself part of that team and say to them, see, rather than come and see me once a year, right? Let's meet every month, or let me do this for you, or let me put this in place, because you've got all these opportunities. And if I can help you do that, you'll then get funding. And if you can take a business from 1 million to 5, right? Let's assume all the profitability and the percentage are the same. They're making 5 times as much money. Do you think they're going to grudge paying you 5 times more or even 10 times more? Because they will have no stress, they'll have lots of money, and they'll have a very valuable business. That's what accountants need to do.
Well, this is actually some of the feedback that I was getting from some of the accountants that are members of Money Insights. And in fact, one of the pieces of feedback was he really enjoys. So at the end of every month, I send out like a roundup of the insights that we shared. So everything that was discussed in the month. So know your numbers, private investment, or anything that comes up. And what he was saying was it'd be really great to put that together in one succinct email so that he can just forward that to his membership, sorry, his client base, his MailChimp list. And I thought, well, yeah, that's exactly it. These are insights that we're putting to you that you can just take to your clients, and it's easy. It puts it in front of them, and then when you have your monthly catch-ups or your quarterly catch-ups, there's things there that you can already pick at. And it's this talk today, every insight that I share with members, it's to highlight opportunities that perhaps they even are aware of them, but they're just not sure how to start it, or what's the step one. And this is where you're kind of coming in to say, look, have a talk with me. That could be step one.
One of the first things I say to anyone who applies to Know Your Numbers is that there are no silly questions here. I will never
Mm.
think you, Mr. Business Owner, Miss Business Owner, Mrs. Business are an idiot, okay? Because if you stick me on top of a roof, I don't know how to fix it. You stick me underneath a sink, I don't know how to fix the leak because I've not been taught in that. Just like you've not been taught in finance. And what I'm trying to do is take away the fear and start educating them. Because if you can point your client, if you can give your client two or three things to focus on, from the accounts, get them to focus on gross margin. If they're, if they're hiring out assets or people, get them to focus on utilization and average charge out rates. Get them to look at debtor days, in terms of managing their cash. There are things you can get them to do because most business owners are not daft, right? Because they know how to make a penny or a pound or whatever you want to say, right? And if you say, like, see if you do more of this, you'll make more money. Bang, they're off, right? See if you stop
Yeah.
doing this, you won't lose as much and you'll make more money. Bang, they'll change it. And that's where the accounts have got to be in and sit beside the business. It's like flying a plane. Think of the business owner as the pilot and the accountant as the co-pilot. So you're
Yeah.
sitting there giving the pilot the information, right? We're going here. Here's the map. Here's what you need. Okay, here's all the other information. I've got this dashboard in front of you. Here's all the different things you need to look at. And also in terms of the fuel, I've got your funding sorted out. Here's all the cash and the funding you need to take us to there. So be
Yeah.
part of that team, understand them, and work out. Ask your client, what's their number, right? And what I mean by that is how much do they want to sell their business for and when, and work with them towards that. And guaranteed you will make significantly more as an accountant, and as a business owner, you'll make significantly more as well. And you'll all be very happy together. A lot less stress and making much more money. And that's what this is all about.
That sounded like a perfect way to round off the webinar, Craig. But actually, before we round off, I just want to talk a wee bit about your podcast because this is, season 2 now that you've got out. So please just, tell us a wee bit about how that started and, who you've had on and what you've learned from it, because podcasts are the thing now.
I'm not going to tell you who I've had on because I'll miss certain people out and I don't want to offend anyone. But I know
Uh,
it's very good. It basically started with a discussion with Go Radio, who had an idea about a podcast. And basically went in, had a chat with them, and I just assumed one of them would interview me, every couple of weeks, and they do. And then they said, no, we want you to host it. And I thought, I've never done that before. And it was fine. So we went through that. So I've had a series of business owners on telling their journey, where the trials and tribulations, the growth, the success, the challenges. I've had funders, I've had advisors, I've had brokers, and it's just gone down really well. New episodes out today. There's new episodes out every 2 weeks. You can get it on all the main, Apple, Spotify, Podbean, whatever. You can even ask Alexa. Alexa's a fan of Know Your Numbers podcast as well. You just ask her
there
to.
you go.
And we're recording the next series in a few weeks. But yeah, it's been good fun. I tell you, it's bloody difficult doing it. People think they're just sitting there for a chat. You got to listen intently, and then you got to work out where you're going next.
Of
When
course,
that
yeah. It's
question
off the
comes back,
cuff, these
so it
things.
flows. But it's been really good fun, and the team at Go, as someone that's how we were introduced from
Yes.
Leslie Ann at Go. They've been fantastic. They're great fun to work with. We've a lot of laughs actually. Well, I'm going to share a video tomorrow afternoon because there's a lot of work going on at the house at the moment because I'm selling it. So the decking's been painted at the moment, so I won't, and my rocking chair's been moved. So
Okay.
I'm going to share a video tomorrow, which Gary Crofty from the Breakfast Show, who's the podcast producer, he took that a couple of weeks ago. That's all. That's all I'm saying that. But yes, it's good. It's good. Really good fun.
Okay. And I mean, the feedback that you've been getting from listeners, I mean, is it
Yes.
exactly what we've talked about today?
It's been great because it go advertise it 3 times a day. So there's a snippet goes out 20 past 7 in the morning, 20 past 12, and 20 past 6 during the football show, and it's often played before the business show, and it's on at the end of the business show podcast as well. So it's been great in terms of just the number of businesses we've helped and people who I didn't know before that I've engaged, picked up. Some of them have subsequently joined Know Your Numbers groups as well. So that's good. It's just been good fun.
Excellent. Brilliant. Well, listen, Craig, that's been really, really insightful. Please to the audience, if you do have any questions, feel free to jump in. We've covered just a fraction of what Craig specialises in, but I think it was really important to bring him on today. In the meantime, as I'd mentioned a wee bit about Money Insights at the beginning, this is actually, I've launched in December, and this is a early adopters phase that I'm going through. So ultimately, the members that are joining right now are actually helping me shape the platform moving forward. And I'm taking the feedback from them on what insights are they liking, what introductions are beneficial to their company, what kind of money topics do they want to learn more about in the future. So I do welcome you if you found value in this conversation today. Again, this is just a fraction of what the platform offers you. So please feel free to go over to Money Insights website. You can just sign up there, or there's a nice easy QR code there also. So I'll leave that up just for a moment. But Craig, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. You can get access to Craig's services either going to him directly, or you can feel free to message myself and we can set up a chat. But out with that, have a wonderful day, everyone. And please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Also, I am a startup and I am embracing all new opportunities to help businesses make more money. So thank you for your time and have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Karen. Thanks, everyone.
Bye,
Bye.
Craig.